guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm hoping that today you guys can help me out pick a palette to pan for next year. So I've been thinking about this a little bit. Last year I already tried to go with kind of like a smaller palette to make sure that I can still do my Pandas eyeshadows. I love doing the Pandas eyeshadows, so I definitely do not want to drop that one, but I also love just actually seeing a fully finished palette, like seeing completely empty pans, so not just like random pans all throughout my collection. So I've been thinking a little bit and trying to decide which palette I want to go with. I've kind of looked again to see which palettes either are my smaller palettes or feel like they could be finished up a little bit more easily, so I can combine them with my Pandas eyeshadows and not get completely bogged down into just my Panda palette. Like I feel like I've kind of had towards the end of this year on my Panda palette. I think it probably happens towards the end of every year because I just like seeing the empty pans at the end of the year. But yeah, so I've got a few options here and I want to show them to you guys, share my thoughts, and hopefully you guys can help me decide what I'm going to be working on next year, which is getting pretty close already, so I'm excited. So the first option is one that I did consider last year already as well, and it has pros and cons in different ways. This is the Catrice The Seasons Must Have palette. What I like about this one is that it is pretty small. I can make a look with like the shades in here, like I could bring this with me quite easily. There are some like bigger shades in here, like of course these two, they're both 2.5 grams, so that is a bit of a challenge. Also although this one is like a highlight type shade, so that should be easy enough, but the gray one is definitely cooler tones are less my thing than the warmer tones. So these two are definitely my more favorite shades in here. These two a little bit less, although I do like combining them anyway. And I've got a nice dip in at least the green one here already. So yeah, this is an option. I was considering this last year as well. This has 8 grams in total, so it doesn't sound like too much, but it is just 4 shades that make that 8 grams. So yeah, that is option number 1. Then option number 2, this is one that multiple of you guys have said maybe I should focus on, or you guys would like to see me focus on this one. So I did bring it in partly for that reason. I've already got some pans in this one, in 4 of the shades, the peachy, the reddish one here, the blue, and the golden shade. This palette consists of like more like warmish shades. I feel like the gray and the blue are the most cool shades in here, and of course the white a little bit as well, but that one for me, I'm not pointing at the white, but that one for me is easy enough to incorporate. It's kind of like an inner corner highlight, a little bit on the lid to lighten some things up. And I have a blush in here as well, which I could possibly finish up in a year because it doesn't seem too big. So I don't know the individual grams for the eyeshadows here, but the palette in total, according to the packaging, weighs 11.1 grams. So it isn't a crazy amount considering I've already hit some pans, and part of that is a blush as well. But these are all somewhat shimmery shades. They're not the best quality ever, but I would have a nice bit of variety. It's taking me about 30 uses to hit pan on each of these shades. So yeah, that's what I know about this palette so far. Yeah, that's an option as well. Then I'm gonna do these two kind of at the same time because their grams are of course the same. These are my 2 NYX palettes that I have, and this is the Secret Roll and the Strike a Pose. Both of them weigh 14 grams, yes. So they have 14 grams of eyeshadow in here. And I've already hit a few pans in them, and I know that most of these shades are a bit more on the crumbly, like softer side, so in that sense they could be easier to use up. Most of the time it takes me more around 20 uses to get the pan on any of these. So starting off with the Secret World palette, in here I already have 3 pans on this shade, and this shade. It's a lot of greens again. You guys know I keep rolling in greens in all my projects, so I don't know, I've gotten used to using the greens anyway. There are some like chunkier glitters in the more like neutrally shades at the bottom right here, but at the same time it does have a good few neutral shades. Now of course I will likely still be working on partly that dark brown and definitely the medium brown in my Bourjois trio that I've been working on in my pen palettes. So I'm gonna have to think how I can combine these, but these four are definitely like on the lighter side, so they could be lit shades and that type of thing. So this one might be the only one that actually interferes with that, but it's more of a reddish brown in comparison to what I have in there. So definitely some options here, but it really only is like 2 different types of shades. It's all greens and all browns, but also that does mean I might be able to incorporate a lot of other things with this. So that's option number 3. I've got 2 more, just so you guys know what else is still coming. Like I already said, I've got the NYX Strike a Pose palette. In this one, I've also got 3 pans, but one of them is an empty pan. So I finished off a complete shade in here already. I've got 2 like proper pans in here. I've got a white in here, which is easy enough for me to work through, like I said, as an inner corner highlight or a brow bone highlight, something like that. It has a nice combination of mattes and slightly more shimmery shades, which is always nice in my opinion, because I've been working on a lot of shimmery shades. I have a lot of shimmery shades in my collection, so it might be nice to have some mattes to focus on a bit more as well. I do have like these browns that partly might interfere with my Bourjois palette though, so that is something that I'm kind of thinking about. And of course there is a nice big black in here as well, while I'm still working on my black from my Lancome palette. But like I said, these are a bit more powdery. This one is like has a nice pigment though, even though it's a bit powdery, but with it being powdery, maybe it's easier to use up than I'm expecting it to. It's 10 shades, so each shade should be about 1.4 grams. And yeah, I think this was also one that I was already considering last year because it has a nice variety of shades. It's not just like with that Secret Rolled One greens and browns, which means I can play around with this nicely. It's nice and compact as well. But I can see pros and cons at the same time to having like a nice variety in this one, or having more of the same things, which means I can incorporate pen and palette shades a little bit more easily without them kind of being even somewhat similar to anything in here. But yeah. Then lastly, I have the Urban Decay Shadow Box. This one I thought was like a big enough palette, but then I looked at the packaging and it actually says that there are 12 shades in here that each are 0.5 grams. So that means that this is actually only 6 grams in total, which I cannot really believe, because that would mean that this palette contains less product than even this one right here. But that's what the packaging says, so I guess we're gonna have to believe it. Also in this one, I've got pan on 3 shades already. I've got pan on this greenish shade. I've got pan on Bordello Red here, and I've got pan on Free Love. Also in here, I've got a nice bit of like warmer shades, which I definitely want to use a little bit more in the next year. And they're not too bright, so they're easy shades for me at least to use. There is a very black in here, so that is the only one that I would be a little bit concerned about. Moonshadow is a dark blue, which isn't really a shade that I'm very used to using either, but I know I can work with that, especially if that's the only like really darker shade. Of course, we've got Indo as well, but I already have pan on that one. And then apart from that, it is a nice like neutral-ish palette. I've also already got a little bit of a dip in Sin Bright here, which I can use as a brow bone highlight or lit shade, so that one is definitely an easy one to use, and already is in my Pendos eyeshadows right now. So far it's taken me about like 30-35 uses to hit pan on any of these shades, which is why I was surprised when I saw that this was 0.5 grams per shadow, because it definitely seems like it's more. So it might actually take me longer to get through the 6 grams in here than it would to get through 14 grams in here. It's kind of the feeling that I have, but I don't know. So yeah, I would love to hear from you guys what you think. So we've got the Urban Decay Shadow Box. We've got the 2 different NYX palettes, the one with the greens and the browns, and the one with a bit more different colors. We've got the Amuse Palettes, and then we have the Catrice The Seasons Must Have palettes. Let me know what you guys think. Also, of course, take my feedback about these palettes in mind a little bit, but also let me know what you guys would like to see me pan the most. Yeah, and that is it for today. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye bye!